My next guest grew up in poverty in Dublin before being sent to the now notorious Artaine Industrial School, where he lived for 8 years. While he was there, he became a member of the Artaine Boys Band, where he learned how to play the trombone, and then he went on to play later with show bands all over Ireland. He's since written an album based on his experience entitled 800 Voices, but he joins us today in studio to discuss how music has helped to heal the painful childhood he had and to discuss his memoir, which is called The Boy at the Gate. And we'll find out why it is so called. Danny Ellis, you're very welcome to the programme.
Great to be here, Pat. Thank you.
Now, you were living now in North Carolina, but you grew up very far from North Carolina.
That's
you
right.
live at Green Street near
Green Street,
Smithfield
that's right.
in Dublin. What was family life like for you? Because the descriptions are pretty awful in the book.
It was pretty tough. Very, very, very poor. But living in Smithfield at the time was a very colourful place to live. There was not a lot of money, but it was always a lot of shenanigans. Everybody was on the make. Everybody had a little angle, a little scheme going on.
Did you know how poor you were then? Because you were living in a one-room tenement.
I didn't know how poor I was, no. My mother used to send me down to Smithfield Market to steal vegetables like a turnip. Go and get me a turnip, and after that, go and get me a cabbage. So vegetable stew was big on the menu. So I would steal a lot, but I never thought there was anything wrong with that.
Now, the background, your mother was a young mother.
That's right.
She was what, only
18 when I was born.
When you were born,
yes.
You were the eldest of the family.
That's right.
Was she equipped to cope with you guys?
Oh, not at all. Not remotely, no. And then when I was born, her own parents went to America. They immigrated, so she was pretty much left on her own after my dad went to go to America to find some work. And so she really couldn't cope at all. She had no support whatsoever. So
people these days will talk about the hard times that some people are enduring in this current recession. But the hard times, even for the toughest experiences now, are just so different from the kind of life that you had to endure. I mean, rats on the floor and
that's right.
Literally wondering where the next meal would come from.
That's right. It's really hard to, speaking to my wife about this in the car on the way over, you don't realise how poor you are, and I never realised what I went through until I got married and I started speaking to my wife about it and friends. I never really spoke about it as I was growing up. And then I would tell my wife little stories and say, oh my God, that's terrible. And I say, is it terrible? And after a while I began to realise, oh my God, I really went through some things. And I realised I wasn't really having a good look at what had happened to me. You kind of bury it.
You went to Artaine, but the spectre of Artaine had been held over you anyway, hadn't it?
Well, that's right. And over every kid really on Green Street. We all
I can tell you, every kid who went to O'Connell schools as
well.
I did.
It was always like,
behave or you'll end up in Artaine.
The Christian Brothers will sort you out. The Christian Brothers know what to do with your type, And so my mother used to say that a lot. They were the boogeymen. They were like the people who you were afraid of in the dark, So and when I found myself in Artaine, and my mother told me outside the gates, she said, I've got TB, I'm leaving you here, and you're going to be looked after by the Christian Brothers. I nearly died on the spot.
Because this was your worst nightmare.
This was the worst nightmare. I thought, oh my God, I've really done it. What did I do?
How many were in the family at that point? Because there was a dysfunction which came into your family because your father went away to America.
He sure did. And after being away for a year and a half, my mother, she really kind of fell apart.
But she had twins in his absence.
So she had twins in his absence. So and of course, that was the end.
That meant he wasn't coming back?
That meant he wasn't. Well, he actually
Certainly
did
not
come
to her.
back. He came back, but he came back to go away properly.
Yeah. So how many children were left at home then?
There was 5. And so really my mother basically just fell apart. There was no support. You can imagine. She really just went into a bit of a downward spiral.
You went to Artaine and your mother says, I have TB. You've got to go in here while I recover.
That's right.
She never had TB.
She never had TB. I didn't find that out till years later. All the time while I was in the orphanage. And here's really what the book is about. My book is a little bit different than most of the stories. Most of the stories are about, the doom and gloom and the toughness of the orphanage. Mine is a little bit about that. But really the main theme going through my book is the fact that I was waiting for my mother. And the boy at the gate is the boy who's waiting for his mother. Yeah, yes.
Always believing that she's going to recover and she's going to come and pick
Any day
me up.
she's going to get better and she's going to come back and get me.
She came back once.
Yeah, she came back once for maybe about a half an hour. And
you described she had to make her way across the cow dung
that's
filled
right.
fields.
That's right.
And insisted on meeting you.
Insisted on seeing me. And she stood in the office with the cow dung on her shoes. And oddly enough, she had her man friend with her then. And that to me was like a terrible, terrible thing to see.
She had made
him.
a choice.
She'd made a choice. And I think she was actually going away at that time to England.
When she arrived, you thought...
I thought she was going to take me home.
She's going to take me home.
That's right, yeah.
And then when you saw the man friend...
I saw the man friend and she was drunk.
So you knew it wasn't going to happen.
So I knew it was all over.
It's a terrible, terrible experience.
Yeah.
And then it emerged that your two younger brothers, the twins...
That's right.
...had been in Artaine for 2 years while you were
Well,
there.
that's right. See, they were 6 years younger than me. And so when I was put into Artaine, they were put into another orphanage somewhere in Rathdrum. And so when they came of age, when they were ripe enough to be able to face up to the Christian Brothers, they were put into Artaine school. And of course, they were using my mother's maiden name because they didn't have my father's name. So I didn't know
so these
who
two
they were.
young fellas were there
in the band
with you,
me.
your brothers.
I'm teaching them music in the band. And it never occurs to me that they're my twin brothers. And on the day I'm leaving Artaine, see, I'd been to America with the Artaine Boys Band, and I found out that in America they called my mother, her maiden name is McHale, but of course in Ireland it's McCall. So anyway, I'm in the office the day I'm leaving Artaine, and the guy says to me, "What's your mother's maiden name?" And I said, McHale. And he said, "Spell that." And I said, M-C-C-A. He said, "That's not McHale, you idiot. That's McCall." He said, "It's like Matty and Henry McCall, the two lads in the band." And hearing my mother in the same sentence as the two twins and their name, I nearly died on the spot because I realized just there and then that they were my twin brothers. And that
what
moment.
an extraordinary experience!
Yes.
Just as you're leaving, before the bonds
The minute
of
I'm
brotherhood
leaving.
could possibly
That's right.
be reinforced.
And I ran out onto the orphanage playground and looked around, and I found them playing together. They were always playing together. And I stopped them from playing, and I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm your brother, and at least you're half brother." And they said, "What's a half brother?" And I said, "I don't know. We had the same mother, but they just didn't know what you're going to do with that information." You're like, they were 10 years of age, and I was like 16, and they're kind of looking around, shrugging, and they look at one another, and they're just playing ball and kicking the ball around. So we just shook hands, and I had a half a crown in my pocket, and I said, "Here you are, lads."
In Artaine, lots of things happened. There was
Yes.
sexual abuse and physical abuse, beatings.
Yes.
You were never sexually abused, but you
Never.
did feel the leather from time to time.
I felt the leather almost, very, very, very often. Not as much because you're in the band and you were kind of cloistered a little bit. And I was never sexually abused. I was kind of fondled once, tentatively by somebody who I suppose who was trying me on, and I let out such a yelp that he was discouraged for all time.
But music became your life.
Music,
and it also allowed you to become what you later became.
Yes, and music it's really almost impossible to express how much music moved into my life and how it allowed me to, it's like when you play a piece of music and you're sad, your sadness becomes something which is alive rather than something that's dead. And you play music and you emote into your music, and your sadness becomes an expression. And I'm just realizing that so many lads didn't have any way of expressing that kind of loneliness. You see, the thing about the stories that I mostly talked about are the stories about abuse and beatings and so on. But there's a much deeper wound than that, and that has been abandoned by your parents. Being lied to, being kind of tricked. For Tommy Bonner, actually, I'm going to sing a song in a moment about Tommy Bonner. And Tommy, he was put into an orphanage while some other of his family stayed at home. So it was like...
Why me?
Why me? And there was like lots of lads like that.
When you got out of Artaine and you made music your life and the show bands and so on, but did you ever see your mother again?
Never saw her again. No.
Now, she was only 18 when you were born.
She was only 18.
She is likely, unless she's come to harm, still alive.
That's possible. And a very funny thing, I heard about a year ago that while I was in Artaine, she came back to Ireland for a week and went out dancing with her friends and never came to see us, never came to see me or my sisters. And so that kind of story is the kind of story that kind of energy is what I wanted to write about in the book. Just that kind of hope, living in hopes that somebody's going to come and take you home.
Would you ever like to see her if she's living? Would you like to see her again?
I think it would be. I would love to see her, and just shake her hand and give her a kiss on the forehead and say, I understand. I mean, it was a hard time. She had no support. I mean, just a couple of words of support or words that would fortify you in some way would make all the difference to your life. But that wasn't happening. There was nothing but condemnation. And an amazing thing is that the father of the twins found out he was married. No, his wife rather found out that he had an affair and there was twins from that. The wife offered to adopt the kids. The neighbours found out about this, and he was a Protestant, and they reported to the local priest, who came along and knackered the deal on the spot.
Made sure it never happened.
Rather than the twins going to a family who could love them and support them with their father, they were dumped into an orphanage anonymously, who nobody knew their name.
A terrible, terrible time. A terrible, terrible time.
Yeah,
and you sublimated all of that for years and years and years. When did Artaine come out in your heart, in your music?
Well, I would tell my wife little stories about it all the time. And the shock on the look of shock on her face made me suspect that I wasn't really dealing with it with the respect that the story needed. And I'm a songwriter. I've always been a songwriter. And so one night I was playing at the piano and I was feeling really kind of sad for some reason or another. And out came my first song, 800 Voices, which was like, 800 voices echo across the great playground. And I thought, oh my God, I'm singing about Artaine. And I just kept singing and kept singing and kept playing. And, I'll be back for you this Christmas, I could hear my mammy say. And the bitter truth within that lie I've yet to face today. When it gets too much for feeling, you bury it somehow. And that 8-year-old abandoned lad still waits for her right now. And that was the line. That 8-year-old abandoned lad still waits for her right now was the thing that just cracked my heart right open and allowed me to kind of access how I actually was truly feeling about all of that. I was still waiting for it. And the boy at the gate is like a man at the gate. He's still, to a great extent, he was still waiting for her.
Well, the book is an absolutely terrific book, The Boy at the Gate. It's published by Transworld, and the price in sterling is $14.99. I presume something similar here in euro. Danny Ellis, thank you very much for coming in, and you will sing that song.
I will sing. Can I mention that I'm doing a book reading? I'm doing a book reading and a book signing in Hodges and Fidges on Friday the 21st at 6:30. And I'm doing a couple of gigs as well. I'm playing tomorrow night in Listowel in St. John's. And on next Thursday the 20th, I'm playing in Kilworth in the Village Arts Centre.
Very good, Danny. Now, in your own time, let's hear the story of Tommy Bonner.
It's a bit early in the morning, but I'll do my best. Thank you. Early Mass that first Black Sunday, I'm not praying very hard. Then he sings the most beautiful solo Kyrie, rips my soul apart. And tears that I'd held back for days come pouring down like rain. It wasn't hard to let it all go when Tommy Bonner sang. Forbidden to look round us in church, today I have no choice. Have to see what kind of human being stood behind that angel voice. And in his eyes you saw the place where prayer first began. and you knew that God was listening when Tommy Bonner sang. Dark as any moonless night, clean as the morning dew, and he sang as if to save his life while saving my life too. And I never got to know him at all, but I knew him just the same. You see, 'cause everybody knows you when you sing like Tommy sang. Then one April Sunday morning, early in the spring, I thought he must be sick with the flu or something, 'cause he didn't come to sing. And when the mass was over, my heart fell to the floor to hear that Tommy turned 16 and left the school, and he'd sing at mass no more. At first I felt again abandoned, deserted and betrayed. It seemed that everything I loved would run and leave me here, lonely and afraid. But there and then a seed was planted, and God, I wish I'd felt back then just a small taste of the joy I'd come to find trying to sing like Tommy sang. Hey, 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 dark as any moonless night, clean as the morning dew, and he sang as if to save his life while saving my life too. And I never got to know him at all, but I knew him just the same, you see, 'cause everybody knows you. Everybody knows you when you sing like Tommy sang. Kyrie, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
The story of Tommy Bonner. That was wonderful, Danny. The book, by the way, is called The Boy at the Gate by Danny Ellis, published by Trans World. And Danny Ellis, thank you very much for joining us in studio today.